The missing detective who solved his own murder. Rain slammed against the windshield as Detective John Wheeler's car skidded to a stop on the narrow forest road. His breathing was uneven, heavy, the kind of panic that doesn't come from fear alone, but from realization. He wasn't running from a suspect tonight. He was running from his own brothers in blue. Through the crackle of thunder, he saw headlights cutting through the mist behind him, slow, deliberate, like a hunter stalking prey. Wheeler reached for the small voice recorder on his dashboard, its red light blinking faintly. His voice shook as he spoke. "If you're hearing this, it means they got me. Everything's in the envelope. Trust nobody in the department." The lights drew closer. He grabbed the brown envelope on the seat beside him, sealed tight and addressed to Detective Lisa Morgan, his old partner, the only one he still trusted. Then, Wheeler stepped out into the downpour, flashlight trembling in his hand. The woods were darker than night itself. The sound of his footsteps drowned beneath the storm. Branches snapped behind him. 3 men, dressed in black raincoats, voices muffled under the roar of rain. "Wheeler, it didn't have to be like this," one of them shouted. But Wheeler didn't turn back. He ran, deeper, farther, until the ground beneath him vanished. The fall was brief, a thud, the splash of shallow water, and then silence. Only the flashlight, half submerged, flickered beside his lifeless hand. A week later, the local paper called it an accident. Veteran detective found dead after apparent fall. No foul play suspected. The department mourned him publicly. Privately, they exhaled in relief. But what they didn't know was that Wheeler's voice recorder had kept running, hidden in his car, battery dying slowly, capturing not just his final words, but the voices of those who came aft, the ones who moved his body. Months later, Detective Lisa Morgan sat alone at her desk long after everyone had gone home. The office smelled like old coffee and printer ink, the kind of place secrets linger. That's when the envelope arrived, postmarked the day before Wheeler's death. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a cassette tape labeled only "Play Me First." The moment she pressed play, Wheeler's voice filled the room, quiet, weary, and scared. "Lisa, if you're hearing this, I was right. It's them. Don't go to internal affairs. They're in on it." Then came the sound of the rain, and voices in the background. "Where's the recorder?" "In the car. Leave it. No one will find it." Lisa froze. The voice was familiar, too familiar. It was Captain Harris, Wheeler's superior officer, the same man leading the investigation into his death. Her heart pounded as Wheeler's words faded into static. But before the tape ended, there was one last faint whisper. His final clue. "Follow the light. Under the floor." Lisa looked around the empty office, the hum of the ceiling light above her the only sound. Then, she noticed it. The flicker of one single light bulb in Wheeler's old office, down the hall. The door was locked, and the key had been missing since the night he died. Lisa Morgan stood in the darkened hallway of the precinct, her hand hovering just above the doorknob of Wheeler's old office. The flickering light above the door buzzed faintly, like it was waiting for her. That room had been sealed since the funeral. "Evidence hold," Captain Harris had said. But tonight, long after everyone else had gone home, the tape's whisper haunted her mind. "Follow the light. Under the floor." She slid the stolen master key into the lock. A soft click. The door creaked open. The air inside was cold and heavy, the kind of cold that doesn't come from bad heating. It comes from something unfinished. Wheeler's desk was still there, perfectly neat, file drawers labeled in his careful handwriting. His jacket still hung on the chair, a faint trace of his cologne trapped in the fabric. Lisa closed the door behind her. The bulb flickered once, twice, then steadied, shining directly over a loose section of floorboard near the far wall. She knelt, pressing her fingers along the edge. The wood gave slightly beneath her touch. With the letter opener from Wheeler's desk, she pried it open, revealing a small metal box wrapped in plastic. Her pulse raced as she lifted it out. Inside were 3 cassette tapes and a note written in Wheeler's rushed handwriting. "If I disappear, start with tape 2. Her throat went dry. She pulled the small tape recorder from the box and pressed play. Static. Then Wheeler's voice. "Lisa, they know. They've been moving evidence out of the locker. Harris, Dixon, and Price. They're all part of it. I found surveillance logs they deleted. I'm sending copies to you in case they get to me first." Then, in the background, faint but clear, came another voice. "John, you shouldn't have done that." It was Captain Harris, the same calm tone he used in every briefing. Only now, it sounded cold, rehearsed. Lisa froze the tap, in every hair on her arm standing. She looked toward the window, the reflection of her own face staring back. And then she saw it. Movement. A shadow crossing the hallway behind her. Someone was in the building. She quickly shut off the recorder and reached for her holster. But before she could move, the office door handle turned slowly. A voice called softly from the other side. "Detective Morgan? You still here?" It was Officer Price, one of the names Wheeler mentioned on the tape. Lisa steadied her breathing, backing away from the door. "Yeah," she said, forcing calm. "Just finishing reports." The knob stopped turning. Silence. Then footsteps, moving away. She exhaled, trying to steady her hands. She slid the tapes into her bag and locked Wheeler's office behind her. But as she walked past the evidence room, she noticed something that made her stop cold. The door, which should have been sealed, was open just an inch. And from inside, faintly, came the sound of Wheeler's voice again. The same tape, playing on its own. Only this time, he was saying something new, something she hadn't heard before. "Lisa, they're still watching. Don't trust anyone. Not even..." The recording cut off mid-sentence. And in the reflection of the glass door, Lisa saw a figure standing behind her. A man in uniform, face hidden in shadow. Lisa spun around, her gun already raised. The hallway was empty, silent except for the hum of the lights overhead. The reflection had shown someone there, she was sure of it. But now, nothing, just the faint echo of her own breathing. She turned back to the evidence room door. It was wide open now. The faint whir of an old cassette deck came from inside. On the metal shelf sat a recorder, the same make and model Wheeler used, spinning a tape labeled 3. Lisa stepped closer. The red light blinked, casting a small glow on the wall. She hit pause. The sudden stop of sound made the silence heavier. She stared at the tape label again, Wheeler's handwriting. But that was impossible. She had just found tapes 1 and 2 in his hidden box. Her pulse quickened. Someone had planted this. She pulled her phone and dialed the evidence clerk. No answer. Then internal affairs. Straight to voicemail. Finally, she called Harris. "Captain, it's Morgan. I'm still at the station." His voice cut in before she could finish. "Lisa? Go home. It's late. We'll talk tomorrow." "I think someone's been tampering with..." "I said go home." The line went dead. Lisa looked back toward the recorder. Her finger trembled as she pressed play. Wheeler's voice filled the room again. "Lisa, if you're hearing tape 3, it means they moved me. They staged the crash. They'll say I fell into the ravine near Black Hollow Road, but that's not where I died." Her knees went weak. That was the exact location where they had found him, or so she'd been told. The recording continued. "Check locker 32. That's where the real files are. I made copies of everything." A sudden metallic bang echoed from the end of the hallway. Lisa grabbed her gun again, backing toward the door. The fluorescent lights above flickered violently, one by one, plunging half the corridor into darkness. Then she saw movement. A shadow ducked behind the corner. She aimed her flashlight, heart hammering. "Who's there?" she called. No answer, just the echo of her own voice bouncing off the tile. She stepped out cautiously, gun raised. The smell of ozone and dust filled the air. When she reached the end of the hall, her light caught something smeared across the wall. Dark, wet, dripping down like ink. But when she leaned closer, she realized it wasn't blood. It was marker. Thick black strokes spelling out a message. "He told you to follow the light." The words were written over the switch box for the basement lights, a place sealed off years ago after a flood. Her hand shook as she reached for the switch. The moment she flipped it, a row of flickering bulbs buzzed to life below, revealing a stairwell she didn't even know existed. The air that rose from the basement was cold and faintly metallic, like rust and rainwater. Lisa looked over her shoulder once, listening. The station was silent. She took a breath, then started down the stairs, one creaking step at a time. At the bottom, her flashlight beam fell on a metal locker. Its tag rusted but still legible. 32. She swallowed hard and reached for the handle. The lock had been cut. Inside was a box of old case files, all labeled with Wheeler's handwriting. And right on top sat a new cassette. No label, just a sticky note that read, "Don't listen alone." Lisa froze. Because as her flashlight flickered against the concrete wall, she saw something scratched into the surface, deep grooves carved by hand. "He's not dead." Lisa stood frozen in the basement, her flashlight trembling in her hand. The beam flickered across the concrete walls, over the words carved into the stone. "He's not dead." Her heartbeat was deafening in the silence. The faint hum of the old lights above her buzzed like static in her ears. She stared at the unmarked cassette resting on top of the files. Every instinct screamed to leave. But she couldn't. Not after everything Wheeler had left behind. She picked up the tape and slid it into the recorder. The reel began to spin. For a moment, there was only static. Then Wheeler's voice filled the dark room, calm, low, and deliberate. "Lisa, I'm sorry you had to come this far. By now you've seen the signs. They think I'm gone, but I'm not." Lisa's breath caught. The voice wasn't distorted or old. It was clear, too clear, as if it had been recorded recently. The tape continued. "They buried the truth under this building. Locker 32 wasn't evidence storage. It was a holding room. Look behind the cabinet, Lisa. You'll find what they never wanted anyone to see." Her flashlight beam swept across the room until it landed on a heavy metal cabinet pushed up against the far wall. Rust streaked the sides. She hesitated, then gripped the edge and pulled. It screeched across the floor, revealing a sealed metal hatch beneath. The handle was old and corroded. She forced it open, the sound echoing up the stairwell like a scream. A gust of cold air rushed out, carrying the smell of damp earth and something older, stale. She aimed her light inside. There was a small concrete tunnel, just wide enough for a person to crawl through, leading into complete darkness. She swallowed hard. "Wheeler, what did you find down here?" The tape clicked softly again. His voice followed. "If they find this recording, they'll erase everything. But I've hidden proof. Photos, case logs, Audid. Io, it's all down here. Follow the tunnel. You'll understand." Lisa dropped to her knees and crawled in, the sound of dripping water echoing ahead. The air was colder now, her breath visible in the beam of her flashlight. The tunnel curved, then opened into a small underground chamber lined with filing cabinets and boxes, all labeled in Wheeler's handwriting. But what made her blood run cold was what lay in the center. An old tape recorder identical to hers, still running. The red light blinked faintly. The voice on the tape spoke again, But this time, it wasn't Wheeler's. "Detective Morgan, you shouldn't have come here." She froze. The voice was Captain Harris. Footsteps echoed behind her in the tunnel. Slow, heavy. She turned off her flashlight and crouched low, her back against the wall. The faint beam of another light appeared at the far end of the passage, growing brighter, closer. "Lisa," Harris called softly. "Put the tapes down. Walk away. This isn't your fight." Her trembling hands fumbled in her bag. She found Wheeler's last tape, the one marked "Play Me First." She slid it into the recorder and hit play. Wheeler's voice echoed through the chamber. "Harris will come for you. He always cleans up loose ends, but if you're hearing this, it means he didn't clean up mine." A click, then static. Suddenly, the tunnel lights flickered, and a new sound filled the air. A faint rhythmic tap, like footsteps, but not human. Lisa turned toward the hatch. Harris was gone. His flashlight lay on the ground, still on, beam trembling slightly, as if it had been dropped mid-step. Then came a whisper, a voice right beside her ear. "Thank you for finishing what I started." The recorder clicked off. When backup arrived hours later, they found the basement empty. No Harris, no Lisa. Only Wheeler's old recorder sitting in the middle of the floor, still warm. "Gent, it's still running." The final words captured on the tape were calm, steady, familiar. "Case closed.